There's a certain kind of strength that doesn't appear to be strength at all. It's quiet, it's subtle, it hides behind soft smiles and polite laughter. It lives in the person who says, "I'm fine," even when their eyes are tired, their chest feels heavy, and their heart is barely holding together. You've met someone like this. Maybe you are someone like this. They show up every day. They help others carry their burdens. They keep everything running while their own world is quietly falling apart. They never want to be a problem, so they learn to wear a mask so convincing that even they forget what's underneath. A mask that says everything is okay, even when nothing is. Psychologists have a name for this. They call it emotional suppression. However, what makes this fascinating and deeply unsettling is the people who do this aren't liars. They're not being fake. They're protectors. They learned somewhere along the way that showing their real feelings was dangerous. And society rewards them for it. We call them strong. We admire how they never fall apart. We praise their composure, but we never stop to ask the question that actually matters. What is this costing them? Because every time someone swallows what they really feel, they're not just hiding sadness, they're fragmenting themselves piece by piece, day by day, until one day they look in the mirror and don't recognize who's staring back. But here's where it gets darker. This pattern doesn't start in adulthood. It starts much earlier, and what happens in those early years explains everything. This pattern almost always originates in childhood, to moments when showing emotion came with consequences. Your nervous system recorded those moments. It built a blueprint that still runs your life today. The good news is that the blueprint can be rewritten. What we're going to explore will take you through 3 stages. First, the origin of the mask and why your younger self needed it. Second, the hidden cost that builds up over years of pretending. And third, the path back to yourself that most people never find. However, before we reach the solution, you need to understand just how deep this issue goes. It starts earlier than you think. Usually, somewhere in childhood, you learned a lesson that changed everything. Maybe when you cried, no one came. Maybe when you reached out, someone told you to toughen up. Perhaps you shared your pain with someone, and they made you feel ashamed of it. Or maybe it was subtler. Maybe you simply noticed that when you were quiet and agreeable, people liked you more. When you had needs, they pulled away. So you did what any intelligent child would do. You adapted, you learned that silence was safer than truth, that composure earned love, that pretending to be okay was the price of belonging. Your nervous system recorded every single one of these moments. It created a survival blueprint, and that blueprint whispered the same message over and over. Vulnerability equals danger, needs equal rejection, being seen equals being hurt. This wasn't a weakness. This was brilliant survival intelligence. Your younger self was protecting you from pain, the only way they knew how. The tragedy is that this protection eventually became the very thing causing you pain. But here's what most people miss. The mask didn't just change how others see you. It changed how you see yourself. And that's where the real damage begins. Studies show something disturbing. People who habitually suppress their emotions start to lose connection, not just with others, with themselves. The more they pretend, the less they can feel. It's like emotional anesthesia that spreads slowly until everything feels muted. It becomes a loop that feeds on itself. Fear of judgment leads to hiding. Hiding leads to isolation. Isolation leads to more fear, and around it goes. So they keep performing, they post happy photos while feeling empty. They give cheerful answers while drowning. They crack jokes while their chest feels tight. They play the part so convincingly that even they start to believe it. But the body keeps score. Deep down, there's an exhaustion that sleep can't fix. A tiredness that comes not from doing too much, but from being someone you're not for far too long. Psychologists call this emotional dissonance. On the surface, you appear composed, graceful even, but beneath that surface is a storm that never stops. Your mind becomes a battlefield, who you are versus who you think you need to be. And that war is exhausting. You can spot these people if you know what to look for. They deflect compliments like they're allergic to them. They change the subject the moment things get real. They laugh off pain with phrases like, "I'm just tired," or "It's nothing really." But here's the part that will change how you see this forever. These people aren't weak, they're not broken. They're actually some of the strongest people you'll ever meet. And understanding why requires looking at what this mask actually costs. Every time someone smiles through pain, they're using survival skills they developed as a child. They're not being fake, they're doing the only thing their nervous system knows how to do. They've learned to regulate the external world by controlling the internal one. If I stay calm, maybe everything else will stay calm. If I appear fine, maybe things won't fall apart. It works until it doesn't. Because suppression always comes at a cost. Research links chronic emotional suppression to higher stress hormones, weakened immune function, and increased symptoms of anxiety and depression. The body doesn't know how to lie. It stores what the mind refuses to feel. And here's what no one warns you about. Emotions don't disappear when you ignore them. They wait. They wait for quiet moments, for sleepless nights, for the drive home when you're finally alone. They wait until your guard drops, and then everything you've been holding comes flooding back all at once. This is what psychologists refer to as emotional fatigue. A bone-deep tiredness that has nothing to do with how much you slept. It's what happens when all your energy is devoted to maintenance. Maintaining the image, maintaining composure, maintaining distance from the parts of yourself that hurt too much to face. If you've ever felt exhausted not from your work but from the performance of being okay, type 1 in the comments. Just the number 1, because what comes next might explain something you've been carrying for years. But we're not done yet. There's another layer to this that changes everything, and it has to do with why the world actually makes this worse. The world doesn't just allow this pattern, it rewards it. We live in a culture that celebrates hustle over healing, strength over softness, keeping it together over falling apart. We tell people to stay positive, keep going, never give up, but we rarely tell them it's okay to stop, to rest, to admit they're struggling. So people keep pushing until they can't, and when they finally break, everyone acts shocked. I had no idea. Of course not. The world only sees what you show it. Here's a truth that might sting. Pretending to be okay doesn't make you stronger. It makes you invisible, and invisibility is its own kind of suffering. How can anyone help you if they don't know you need help? How can anyone really know you if they only ever meet your mask? The cruelest irony is that people who pretend to be okay are often praised for it. They're called resilient, dependable, strong. However, what appears to be resilience might actually be suppression, masquerading as resilience. This brings up an uncomfortable question. Why do so many of us find it easier to pretend than to be honest? The answer is social conditioning. From childhood, we learn which emotions are acceptable. We're rewarded for being calm and positive. We're dismissed or shamed when we show sadness, anger, or fear. So we curate ourselves. We learn that love comes with conditions, and we spend our lives trying to meet them. Every mask creates distance, not just from others, from ourselves. Connection requires truth requires risk, and when you've been hurt before, risk feels like walking into fire. So we choose the illusion of safety. We smile through pain because it's a predictable response. We say, "I'm fine," because it avoids confrontation. We suppress because silence hurts less than rejection. But in doing so, we slowly disappear. This is the trap, and now we need to discuss the way forward. Here's where the story begins to take a turn. Pretending to be okay is not a life sentence. It's a defense mechanism, one that served a purpose once, one that can be unlearned, but the path out isn't what most people expect. It starts with something terrifying in its simplicity. Honesty, not a dramatic confession, not announcing your pain to the world, Just quiet honesty with yourself, admitting that you're tired, that something's been missing, that you're not okay, and letting that be okay. This small admission has power because it interrupts the loop. It breaks the pattern that's been running on autopilot for years. The moment you allow yourself to feel what you've been avoiding, something shifts. Your body softens, your mind quiets, you start to reconnect with parts of yourself you buried to survive. Carl Jung said something that cuts right to the heart of this. What you resist persists. Denying pain doesn't make it disappear. It just pushes it deeper, where it shapes your behavior without you knowing it. That's why people who pretend to be okay struggle with intimacy. They want connection, but fear it, because real intimacy means vulnerability, and vulnerability means removing the mask. So they become caretakers instead. The one who listens, who fixes, who supports everyone else, but never lets anyone do the same for them. It's safer to give than receive. As long as they're helping others, they don't have to face what's broken in themselves. But deep down, past all the walls, there's a longing to be seen, really seen, not for the composure, not for the strength, for the messy, scared, imperfect truth underneath. The people who seem the strongest are often the ones who need gentleness most. Those who never ask for help are often the ones who need it most. And the ones who always say, "I'm fine," are often carrying weight that would break most people. If you recognize yourself in any of this, type the word "seen" in the comments. Because the next part is about finding your way back. There's a line that captures this perfectly. You can't heal what you hide. The more we hide, the more lost we become. Healing doesn't start when you feel ready. It starts when you stop pretending, when you stop performing for the sake of everyone else's comfort, when you give yourself permission to feel without needing anyone's approval. Here's the truth that might set you free. Pretending protects your image, but honesty protects your soul. When you finally say, "I'm not okay right now," something unexpected happens. You open a door for compassion from others, but more importantly, for compassion for yourself. Admitting how you feel is an act of integration. It reconnects the parts of you that split apart. The performer and the person, the mask and the truth. This integration brings back a sense of wholeness that pretending always seems to steal. One of the most liberating realizations is that honesty and strength aren't opposites. They're the same thing expressed differently. The courage to smile through pain is admirable, but the courage to admit the pain, that's transformation. Healing doesn't require grand gestures, it starts small. Answering, "How are you?" with, "Honestly, I've been struggling, but I'm working on it." Letting yourself cry without apologizing. Taking a break, not because you earned it, but because you need it. Not forcing a smile when you don't have one. There's something deeply healing about being real. Even when real is messy, when you stop performing, you create space for life to actually reach you. Joy starts to feel genuine rather than staged. Sadness moves through you instead of getting trapped. People start to love you for who you are, not just your mask. That's when the connection rebuilds itself, not through perfection, through presence. And here's the beautiful irony. When you stop pretending to be okay, the right people don't run. They come closer. Authenticity has gravity. It pulls in people who can meet you where you actually are, not where you pretend to be. Most people fear that showing pain will drive others away. The opposite is usually true. Vulnerability builds trust faster than anything else. It says, "I'm human too," and in that shared humanity, walls fall. Not everyone will understand. Some people are uncomfortable with real emotion because they've been taught to suppress their own. That's fine. You're not responsible for their comfort. You're only responsible for your truth. Healing is quiet. It happens in small moments. When you finally breathe without performing. When you stop rushing to fill every silence. When you no longer need to justify your sadness. When you stop trying to convince the world you're fine. Because eventually, you realize something that changes everything. The people who actually matter don't need your perfection. They need your presence, and presence only comes from being real. Something interesting happens when people finally drop the mask. They rediscover parts of themselves they forgot existed. Small things become meaningful again. Morning light, real laughter, quiet moments, life regains color, not because everything is fixed, because it's finally honest. Being okay was never the goal. Being whole is. Being at peace with your own contradictions. That's what matters. It takes time, patience, grace with yourself. But slowly the pretending fades, and in its place grows something far stronger. Self-trust. You start trusting that your emotions won't destroy you, that sadness won't swallow you whole, that your truth, no matter how heavy, deserves to exist. The more you trust yourself, the less you need to wear a mask. That's when everything shifts. You stop living for appearances and start living for alignment. You stop chasing validation and start building peace. You stop performing happiness and start actually feeling it, quietly, genuinely, deeply. Maybe that's what this whole journey was about. Not endless positivity, not perfection, just peace. Peace that doesn't depend on pretending. Peace that has room for sadness, joy, confusion, and clarity all at once. Being human was never about being fine all the time. It was about holding the full spectrum of what you feel without shame. The most beautiful people you'll ever meet are the ones who stopped pretending. They walked through darkness and emerged unafraid. They made peace with being imperfect, and that peace radiates from them in ways that words can't capture. So if you've been pretending to be okay, maybe this is your permission to stop. You don't have to carry everyone else while collapsing inside. You don't have to smile just to make others comfortable. You don't have to hide the tender parts of yourself anymore. You are allowed to be honest, to be messy, to be real, because real is what heals. The moment you start living as your whole self, not the filtered version, not the performance, you'll attract the kind of peace that pretending never could. Maybe the goal was never to be okay. Maybe it was learning that even when you're not okay, you're still worthy. Of love, of rest, of belonging. Pretending might protect you from pain, but it also blocks joy, and life is too short to live behind a mask. You don't need to be okay to be whole. You just need to be honest. Because the moment you stop pretending, you don't just survive. You finally start to live.